Chapter 1371, Demise of Purple, 1/2. Chapter 1371, Demise of Purple, 1/2. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Letting me become the leader of Shadow Sect. Fong Yuan was deeply shocked. Unbelievable. He had never imagined the situation would develop like this. I am enemies with Shadow Sect, I even took their sovereign immortal fetus Gu. Why is Purple Mountain True Monarch doing this? What scheme does he have? Countless thoughts were moving and colliding in Fong Yuan's mind. Purple Mountain True Monarch, what is the meaning of this? Fong Yuan was silent before asking. Purple Mountain True Monarch explained, He, Fong Yuan, no need to worry that this is a scheme, there is no such thing. Because I am about to die. Spectral soul was captured, Duke Long is here personally, he will not let me off. The great era is coming, Fong Yuan. Heavenly Court wants to be the leader of the 5 regions and rule all of humanity. Heavenly Court will not let you off, because you are not Zhao Lian Yun, you are a complete otherworldly demon, you have the sovereign immortal aperture as well as the luck path true inheritance. You do not belong to this world, you are a defier of fate, a source of chaos, the biggest uncertainty in heaven and earth. You are the target of Heavenly Court's extermination, if you do not get rid of Heavenly Court, they will eradicate you. My Shadow Sect had once wanted to defy the way of heaven and become a venerable again. But Heavenly Court was our greatest obstacle, even though we lost, I would rather pass you everything than give them to our enemies. Ha ha ha. Purple Mountain True Monarch said this and laughed. Fong Yuan pondered, even in death, not letting enemies have an easy time. This makes sense. However, I need to probe something. Thinking of this, he asked Purple Mountain True Monarch, you have once said that the sovereign immortal body possessed a huge flaw, what is it? Purple Mountain True Monarch chuckled, haven't you noticed this flaw? It is not hard to guess, the answer is food. Your sovereign immortal body was not created by human reproduction, even though it has flesh and blood, the origin is different. The essence of a rank 9 immortal Gu remains. Since it is like a rank 9 immortal Gu, it definitely needs to be fed. Fong Yuan's eyes shined brightly, I had guessed this long ago, what I want to ask is, what exactly does sovereign immortal fetus Gu eat? Purple Mountain True Monarch laughed loudly, didn't you guess it? You are merely testing my sincerity. I will tell you. Purple Mountain True Monarch said his answer, Fong Yuan sucked in a deep breath after hearing it. Like what he had expected, sovereign immortal fetus Gu's food was what he had guessed earlier. In that case, I have a huge problem. But Purple Mountain True Monarch actually told me directly, he indeed seems sincere. Inside Shadow Sect's blessed land. Countless soul beasts formed into an army and charged at Duke Long like a shocking tide. Duke Long was encircled by the soul beast army, his body was smaller than any of the soul beasts, but he had terrifying battle strength, even though the soul beasts were numerous, regardless of their cultivation level, they all fell to Duke Long. Duke Long waved his dragon claws. Swish! With a soft sound, a claw mark could be seen, it almost pierced space, along the way, soul beasts were torn apart, without putting up any resistance. Among these dead soul beasts, there were desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts, but under Duke Long's claws, they were like tofu, soft and mercilessly slaughtered. A bunch of trash, no matter how many you send, it is useless. Duke Long floated in the sky, his body was tall and straight, resembling the peak of a mountain, his dragon horns were sharp and ruthless, his dragon eyes were shining with a cold light. With him at the center, in the radius of 1,000 steps, there was no living beings, a vast number of soul beast corpses were piled up. Purple Mountain True Monarch had already hidden in the soul beast army, his whereabouts were unknown. Duke Long was besieged by the soul beast army for so long, yet he was unharmed. He was expressionlessly looking at a certain location on the ground. Over there, the door of life and death was opened, countless soul beasts were coming out from inside like a geyser. Soul beasts had the natural survival instinct to avoid danger, but after such a long time of being inside, the door of life and death was spectral souls' domain. The soul beasts inside the door of life and death were controlled by spectral soul to an extent. They were incredibly loyal to Shadow Sect and would not care about sacrifices. They listened to Purple Mountain True Monarch's orders and attacked Duke Long, even though it was hopeless. Door of life and death. Duke Long pondered. This was a secluded domain of heaven and earth, unique in this world. It was also one of Duke Long's targets in this journey. After taking the door of life and death, when Favourite Gu recovers completely, any life form's soul upon death, without exception, would need to enter the door of life and death. By then, with this secluded domain of heaven and earth, heavenly court's rule will be absolute. From Duke Long's perspective, once he used a strong move like Triple Chi Retraction, Shadow Sect's blessed land would be incredibly fragile. But now, in order to not destroy the door of life and death, Duke Long decided to use another method. Boom! Duke Long flew out rapidly. He moved like a flying dragon, rampaging without fear. All the soul beasts around him were sent flying, before countless air currents sliced them into pieces. Just a tiny split soul, where do you think you're hiding? Duke Long spoke as he slammed with his hand. Rumble. A huge translucent mountain created from air currents descended and pressed down immediately. Purple Mountain True Monarch gritted his teeth. He had to show up and resist it. Both sides fought as the air current mountain was expended by half. Purple Mountain True Monarch coughed out blood. He was tossed away like a kite with its strings cut. What are you resisting for? Do you still have hope? Duke Long snorted coldly. He attacked again mercilessly with an imposing aura. Hope, huh? Purple Mountain True Monarch knew that he could not survive this battle. This was his final moment in life. His gaze couldn't help but become slightly hazy. More than 100,000 years ago, 7 people emerged from the door of life and death. Huff. We finally got out of the door of life and death. We revived. There are only 7 of us now. Thankfully, Reverse Flow River is not around, otherwise, how could we have left? Now that Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable is dead, let's go. We carry the hope of our main body to return to rank 9. That year, Shadow Sect was established. The first generation split souls were known as red, orange, yellow, green, azure, blue, and purple. That means, I am purple. Purple Mountain True Monarch looked at the water. Seeing his reflection, he looked far away. Let's start cultivating, we need strength. Many years later. Rumble. A huge explosion occurred as the Gu formation shattered. Smoke started to appear. We got through, as expected of Purple. You are really amazing. We actually managed to destroy the Gu formation that Limitless Demon Venerable created. Yellow laughed loudly. Yellow patted Purple's shoulder, asking, Purple, among us, you cultivate wisdom path. What is your wisdom path attainment level now? Great Grandmaster. Purple answered plainly. Yellow's mouth was open mouth. Heavens, you are the first Great Grandmaster among us. Purple looked at Yellow. What is there to be surprised about? Don't forget, we are the main body's split souls. We carry a portion of his cultivation experiences. Yellow nodded. That's right, the best thing to be happy about is this limitless true inheritance. We got past Limitless Demon Venerable's final test. This true inheritance is ours. That's right, this way, our hope of executing our major plan has increased. Purple smiled lightly. If it develops like this, we will continue to gain more true inheritances and resources. We will grow stronger and pave the way for our main body. Many years passed again. Heaven's will. To think that it has such great power. Even Azure suffered a loss. What do we do now? The higher our cultivation level, the stronger Shadow Sect's forces become, and the more Heavens will target us. At this rate, we will have huge problems. It is not hard to settle Azure's matter. I have a way, that is to refine Wisdom Sword Immortal Gu. As for Heaven's will, I will think of a way. Purple said this as he squinted. Even though Azure is no longer bounded by love, his second venerable ascension attempt failed completely. What else can we do? How can we resist heaven's will? Purple started to enter deep seclusion, trying his best to find a way. Finally, he found a method. Assimilate with heaven's will. Let myself become part of heaven's will temporarily. Even though it is dangerous, the idea is good. We will enter the enemy's base and learn about a portion of heaven's will's plans. But there is something to note: if the assimilation is long-term, heaven's will might take me over and I will truly become part of heaven's will entirely. I need to find a way to maintain my own consciousness. After a long and difficult deduction. I finally deduced it. I will name this method Purple Gold Rock. Against heaven's will, even though hope is small, there is still a trace of it. Cough, cough, cough. He suddenly covered his mouth, coughing violently for some time, as blood flowed out from the gaps between his fingers. Time continued to pass. At some point in time, the purple gold rock broke as Purple woke up. Where is this? How long has it been? Looking at the unknown environment, Purple was dazed. Most of the first-generation split souls have died. Only a few are left. They are like me, barely alive. Sigh. Thankfully, Shadow Sect is developing well. Purple let out a deep sigh as he looked at the sky. Heaven's will. He had a solemn gaze. Grandpa, drink some water. One day, Purple woke up and found a pair of master and servant beside him. A young girl wearing elegant clothes along with a muscular female servant. Third young miss, don't bother with this old beggar. Oh, you are too kind-hearted. This old beggar is not a member of our village. Why are you involved with him? The female servant looked at Purple, her Gu master aura unconcealed. Purple looked at himself, smiling bitterly. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1372, Demise of Purple, 2 halves. Chapter 1372, Demise of Purple, 2 halves. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Purple Mountain True Monarch realized that his clothes were extremely tattered. He had a wrinkled face covered in dust and mud. He was scrawny and dirty. But soon, he looked at the female Gu master in front of him, thinking, it's her? The crucial person in fate? No, this feeling is not her, it is her descendant. The female Gu master left behind some food before leaving with the servant. That night, Purple went to her and left a true inheritance in her dream. This true inheritance is a little messy. It has wisdom path, transformation path, and also food path. I'll call it Black Tigress True Inheritance. Oh, I wonder if it will be effective. Can I influence anything? But there is still hope at least, right? Purple left silently. Northern Plains, in a cave. She's here. Purple Mountain True Monarch thought to himself. A young lady one show charged into this place. Upon seeing Purple Mountain True Monarch, her heart sank to rock bottom. So Senior, you are already here. This Junior will leave. I don't dare disturb Senior from taking this true inheritance. Purple Mountain True Monarch's aura made Lady One Show's heart palpitate. Purple Mountain True Monarch looked at her, thinking, this is the girl. He said, little girl, you could become a Gu immortal at such a young age, and also know your own limits, knowing when to retreat or advance, quite good. I don't have the qualifications to take this true inheritance. I am willing to give this true inheritance to you, but, after you inherit it, you need to tell me of its contents. You will also owe me a favor. If there is a situation in the future, you must help the person who uses this information path Gu worm. You can kill me however you want. But I will never beg for mercy. The female Gu master lying on the ground said stubbornly. Purple laughed. Little girl, you are quite interesting. You remind me of the past. Meeting me is your great fortune. Saying this, Purple stretched out his index finger, pointing on the female Gu master's forehead. This is a fire path true inheritance. I am giving you the first half. When you reach rank 5 and become a Gu master expert, you can find the second half somewhere in Northern Plains. If you manage to obtain it, you might be able to become an immortal. Saying this, Purple vanished. Immortal ascension. This old beggar is crazy, is he a Gu immortal? The female Gu master recovered after a long time. She left this place filled with shock and suspicion. Purple stood on the cloud, looking at the departing female Gu master. He muttered, "This girl is quite special, not only is there the smell of fate, she is also receiving Heaven's will's attention. I'm afraid that one of her close relatives becomes a pawn of Heaven's will in the future." He, young man, I have 3 true inheritances here. The first can allow you to bathe in flames and step on fire, surpassing the mortal realm. The second can allow you to control wind and fly in the air, roaming the world freely. The third can allow you to surpass life and death, gaining the ability to assist the world's people. Which one will you choose? Think about it and tell me. The young Tai Bai Yunxing thought for a while and said, "The third one. Another source of hope. Sigh, it has been almost 100,000 years. I hope that the seeds of hope that I spread will accumulate sufficiently to help our main body's plan." Roar. A dragon roar resounded in the entire blessed land. Duke Long spat out dragon flames and directly hit Purple Mountain True Monarch. Purple Mountain True Monarch sacrificed his own arm to block his attack, before retreating. Duke Long grabbed. Purple Mountain True Monarch felt intense pain in his heart. After some struggling, half of his skeleton was smashed to bits by Duke Long. Purple Mountain True Monarch endured the pain. Even though he could not move, he still tried to use goo worms to dodge. Duke Long's expression was still cold. "Want to know why you lost?" He looked at Purple Mountain True Monarch like a cat looking at a mouse. Purple Mountain True Monarch coughed as he spat out some blood, looking at Duke Long. "I am listening." Duke Long smiled coldly, vanishing on the spot before appearing in front of Purple Mountain True Monarch. A tough fist. Purple Mountain True Monarch's stomach was hit by the fist. The unparalleled force directly broke through his abdomen and created a huge hole. Purple Mountain True Monarch was like a cannonball, crashing into the ground and creating a deep pit. You tried to partially assimilate with Heaven's will. The truth is, Lady Star Constellation Immortal Venerable had done that eons ago. She is the creator of Wisdom Path. How could you possibly play tricks before her very eyes? The latter half of your life was spent doing one thing, that was to fight for pawns against Heaven's will. But unfortunately, you were assimilated with Heaven's will. You are one of Heaven's will's pawns too. Duke Long said this as he descended. Purple Mountain True Monarch gritted his teeth, exerting his strength to fly out of the pit. He flew backwards and landed on the ground, coughing out blood again. His stomach was held together by 2 pieces of skin, but he no longer bled. He had used healing methods already. Purple Mountain True Monarch had a pale expression. His body was wavering. All he saw was darkness. Using only his will to maintain his consciousness, he tried not to faint. Duke Long gradually landed on the ground. He did not pursue him, stretching out his index finger to point at Purple Mountain True Monarch. Boom! A grand beam of light shot out intensely. Purple Mountain True Monarch's entire body was flickering with purple light, but under Duke Long's unstoppable attacks, he was thrown into the sky, before crashing onto the ground, his body covered by a pool of blood. As for the second reason you failed, I am sure you have guessed it. That's right, this dream realm has been taken over by Heaven's will. The longer the dream realm manifests, the deeper the infiltration of Heaven's will in this place. This time, my heavenly court was blessed to have gained the guidance of star constellation Heaven's will. We have already understood the condition and location of Spectral Soul's main body. Oh, and that Fang Yuan, it is quite ironic. If he hid somewhere else, we would not have been able to find him, but because he was here to explore the dream realm, he was completely exposed to Heaven's will. He attempted to defy the will of Heaven. He deserves death. He will die today without doubt. Duke Long stepped forward. During which, countless soul beasts gathered. It was a completely dark area filled with endlessly killing intent against Duke Long. Duke Long continued moving forward. Without looking above himself, he raised his left arm and grasped lightly. Rumble. There was a huge explosion. During that period, countless soul beasts broke apart, smashed into smithereens. Duke Long had quasi-rank 9 battle strength indeed, primarily cultivating Chi Path and Transformation Path secondarily. He was now using his Chi Path methods. In front of him, the Soul Beast army was like a fragile toy army. He moved forward, his body was tough and his hair was fluttering. Getting to Purple Mountain True Monarch, Duke Long stood and observed Purple Mountain True Monarch by his feet. Purple Mountain True Monarch lay on the ground, his arms were trembling, he was trying to sit up, he wanted to stand. He wanted to continue fighting. Thus, Duke Long looked at him quietly, seeing him exert all his strength to stand up against him. But Purple Mountain True Monarch was too heavily injured, he had no way of fighting back. Even the action of standing was too tough for him. But just when he was about to fall, Duke Long attacked and grabbed Purple Mountain True Monarch's neck. Duke Long used his pincer-like hand to grab Purple Mountain True Monarch, holding him up towards the sky. How does it feel to have your hopes dashed? Attempting to defy fate will result in such a pitiful ending. Even a venerable soul is no different. Duke Long said coldly. Purple Mountain True Monarch grabbed Duke Long's arms weakly, cough, 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 I, indeed, have no hope, but that does not mean that others, have, no, hope, he. Duke Long's expression changed, his sharp dragon eyes gazed at Purple Mountain True Monarch's body. No wonder you are so weak. You sent a portion of your immortal Gu away. You are truly unrepentant. Even you could not succeed, what can the rest of Shadow Sect do? Purple Mountain True Monarch's face was purple, he could not breathe, he could not speak. He could only think to himself, this person is different. Oh Fong Yuan. You are definitely different. You are a complete otherworldly demon, the best person to resist fate. You are the greatest pawn chosen by Heaven's will to deal with Shadow Sect, but now, you have already escaped the manipulation of Heaven's will. I assimilated with Heaven's will to spread hope in this world and influence fate. Unfortunately, I failed. Like what Duke Long said, I had unknowingly become the pawn of Heaven's will. In the process of assimilating with Heaven's will also assimilated me. I have no hope left, but Fong Yuan, you carry the biggest hope. Let me exert my final influence at the last moment of my life. I am really curious, after gaining the entirety of Shadow Sect, how far can you go? Go ahead and wreak havoc in this world, Fong Yuan. All of his internal thoughts were transmitted to Fong Yuan. Fong Yuan sighed deeply, a person near death. He held no more suspicions, I understand you, even though we were enemies. I will accept this and become the leader of Shadow Sect. Very good, very good. Purple Mountain True Monarch closed his eyes weakly. He grabbed onto Duke Long's hands in the end, even though his movement was stiff, he did not let go. He did not go down without a fight. At this moment, Purple Mountain True Monarch truly died from combat. His messy purple hair was no longer shiny. After 100,000 years, his journey had come to an end. This person who had fought endlessly in his life, he had finally rested. Even though he failed and lost his life, at the final moment of his life, he still continued to spread hope. He died with great expectations, perhaps this was the reason why he was still carrying a smile upon death. This was truly 100,000 years of living in this world, being in a state of half clarity and half insanity. Staring at heaven without bowing down, before his death he gifts the source of chaos. 1. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1373, Acknowledging Fong Yuan as the Leader. Chapter 1373, Acknowledging Fong Yuan as the Leader. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Purple Mountain True Monarch had no more life force, he was now a corpse. What a clean death. Duke Long snorted, his cold dragon eyes could see both the inside and outside of Purple Mountain True Monarch. Purple Mountain True Monarch had many immortal Gu originally, but he had sent most of them away, while the rest had died along with him. Not just that, his soul was dissipating quickly. Duke Long wanted to stop him but he could not. The more surprising thing was that Purple Mountain True Monarch's corpse had many Dao marks originally, but now, they were all dissipating. He truly left no resources to Heavenly Court. Duke Long let go with his hand, as the Purple Mountain True Monarch corpse with 0 value fell to the ground. Soul beasts roared and surrounded Duke Long. But because of his great power, none of the soul beasts dared to attack him. The soul beasts were far bigger than Duke Long's body, but he could actually move confidently and slowly, unhindered. As expected of the Door of Life and Death, there are a great number of soul beasts here. Even if I kill some, more will appear, they are endless. Duke Long sighed softly. The Door of Life and Death was a secluded domain of heaven and earth. It had existed since the creation of the world. 1. Thinking about it, throughout history, the souls of all living beings that died would reside here. Only after Red Lotus Demon Venerable damaged Fate Gu did souls gain the ability to remain in the outside world. Thus, deep inside the Door of Life and Death, only Spectral Soul Demon Venerable would know how many soul beasts or souls there truly were. Duke Long did not pay attention to these soul beasts. Even immemorial soul beasts were just small issues to Duke Long unless it were a legendary immemorial desolate beast like Sui Yi Hui or Mao Li Chiu, then he would have to deal with them seriously. Spectral Soul has been captured and most of the split souls are dead. It is time to go outside and sweep the battlefield. Duke Long had the immortal killer move Dragon Gate. He could freely enter and exit Blessed Lands and Grotto Heavens. Even if Shadow Sect's Blessed Land closed its entrance, it could not trap him. But when he was about to move, the entire Blessed Land started shaking, cracks were forming in the sky, like a shattering mirror. Duke Long frowned slightly. The entirety of Shadow Sect's Blessed Land is self-detonating. As expected of a demon. This way, Duke Long had no choice but to give up his earlier plan. He had to take out the Door of Life and Death before the Blessed Land was destroyed. If the Blessed Land was destroyed, it would create the winds of assimilations. This important secluded domain of heaven and earth would not be safe. Grr. The Soul Beast army growled with fear in their vocalizations. This world was getting destroyed. These soul beasts felt that a calamity was coming. More and more soul beasts went into chaos. Duke Long went against the tide and slaughtered a bunch of soul beasts, ending up in front of the Door of Life and Death. At the same time, outside Shadow Sect's Blessed Land. We cannot take it anymore. Several pure dream reality seeker physique bodies flew out of dream realms one by one. They were not complete extreme physique bodies, they had flaws. Even though they had dream path Dao marks, they could not stay inside dream realms indefinitely. Once time was up, they would have to come out. But when the righteous path Gu immortals in southern border wanted to kill them, the Super Gu formation activated and the pure dream reality seeker physique bodies were teleported away. These pure dream reality seeker physique bodies were created using the cocoons of light by Purple Mountain True Monarch, who expended his own soul. In terms of identity, they were considered Shadow Sect split souls. They were the lingering split souls of Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. However, their battle strength was unreliable. Purple Mountain True Monarch had only given them some mortal goo before dying. And their thoughts and foundation were vastly different from Purple Mountain True Monarch. They were like new entities. Greetings to Shadow Sect's new leader. After seeing Fong Yuan, they paid respects to him. Before Purple Mountain True Monarch died, he had arranged everything. Hei Lu Lan, Bai Ning Bing, Ing Wu Xie, Fairy Miao Yin, Black Tigress, they all came out of the immortal apertures of the pure dream reality seeker physique bodies. Facing Fong Yuan, these people had interesting expressions. Miao Yin pays respects to Lord Sect leader. Fairy Miao Yin spoke first. She and Xiao Si Lu were among the three great fairies in southern border. Her voice was alluring, her clothes were a beautiful pink, her body was alluring and her eyes were deep set, her nose was tall and her eyes were seductive. Lord Sect leader. Black Tigress followed. Her expression was stiff. Not long ago, she had fought and wanted to kill Fong Yuan. But now, fate worked in mysterious ways. Fang Yuan became her leader in such a short time. He Lulan gritted her teeth, sighing deeply. He Lulan pays respects to Lord Sect Leader. She had worked together with Fang Yuan, became enemies with him, and was even saved by him before. She also used her aunt, Blazing Heaven Demoness, to trap Fang Yuan. But later, during the Battle of Tian Mountain, because of a change of events, she had to join Shadow Sect and undergo a tough alliance agreement. Precisely so, after Fang Yuan took over Shadow Sect, he could decide her life and death. He Lulan had to lower her head. To think that the day would come when we worked together again. Bai Ningbing stood alone, she crossed her arms as her dragon eyes shined with cold light, she sighed as she looked at Fang Yuan. Her relationship with Fang Yuan went even further back. From Qingmao Mountain, they had traveled together. And now, both of them had their respective fortuitous encounters, they met again and became allies once more. It was truly interesting. As for Ing Wuxia, he was still in a dream realm. Fang Yuan looked at these Gu immortals. His gaze swept past the pure dream reality seeker physique bodies. They had short lifespan, they would detonate when time was up. The higher their cultivation level, the shorter their lives. Thus, these pure dream reality seeker physique bodies were cannon fodder. Among the members of Shadow Sect, the only ones important to Fang Yuan were Ing Wuxia, He Lulan, Bai Ningbing, Fairy Miao Yin and Black Tigress. There was also Sixth Hair, the spy of Shadow Sect inside Langya Blessed Land, he counted as the sixth person. Among these six, He Lulan was the most trustworthy one to Fang Yuan, because she could not betray him. Fairy Miao Yin and Lady Black Tigress were members of Shadow Sect due to Purple Mountain True Monarch's true inheritances. After inheriting everything from Purple Mountain True Monarch, Fang Yuan had a good grasp over these two. Ing Wuxia and Sixth Hair were split souls of Spectral Soul. Since Fang Yuan became the new leader of Shadow Sect, they had to acknowledge him. As for whether they would follow his orders and act with enthusiasm, that would depend on Fang Yuan's leadership skill. Bai Ningbing was the hardest to control. She had set an alliance agreement with Shadow Sect, they had equal status. Even when Purple Mountain True Monarch was still around, Bai Ningbing did not show them much respect, not to mention Fang Yuan, who had just become the leader of Shadow Sect. In this instant, all sorts of thoughts flashed through Fang Yuan's mind. Next, he said, He Lulan, look after the Super Gu formation for me, I need to wake Ing Wuxia up. He was controlling the Super Gu formation to resist Fairy Z Wei, it was very hard for him to split his concentration on any complex killer moves. The reason why he chose He Lulan was because she was the most trustworthy among the five. Immortal killer move, Unravel Dream. Fang Yuan succeeded in saving Ing Wuxia, allowing him to escape the dream realm. However, even though Ing Wuxia was awake, his condition was not normal. He was listless, he had no fighting spirit at all, he was lying down on the ground like his back was removed. He had been completely broken. Spectral Soul was captured, Purple Mountain True Monarch died, Ing Wuxia's hopes and dreams were shattered. He felt like there was no future left, it was bleak and there was absolutely no hope. Since his life began, the goal of saving his main body had always motivated him and driven him forward. But now that this goal was crushed, Ing Wuxia lost all his drive. Even though they were all split souls, he is still too young. He has not lived as long as Purple Mountain True Monarch, since the Battle of Tian Mountain, how long has passed? Fang Yuan realized as he urged, where are the inheritances that Purple Mountain True Monarch left in your immortal aperture? Pass them to me. Even though Ing Wuxia was dejected, he still acknowledged Fang Yuan's identity and opened his immortal aperture's entrance, letting out a purple will. The will was surrounded by rank 8 immortal essence as well as immortal Gu, floating in the air. Purple Mountain True Monarch. Fang Yuan took a step back, feeling vigilant. Even though Purple Mountain True Monarch only had a will left, his immortal essence and Gu worms were a threat to him. The purple will slowly formed into Purple Mountain True Monarch's appearance as he passed all of his immortal essence and goo worms to Fang Yuan, like what he had promised earlier. Immediately, Fang Yuan refined all of the immortal goo. Fang Yuan finally let out a sigh of relief. Earlier, even though he communicated with Purple Mountain True Monarch, that was all he could do. He could not let Purple Mountain True Monarch send all of his inheritances into Fang Yuan's immortal aperture. Purple Mountain True Monarch had to pass these inheritances to Xianxia before Fang Yuan could take them. Of course, Purple Mountain True Monarch did not request anything from Fang Yuan, but his intention was clear. Purple Mountain True Monarch wanted Fang Yuan to save these people. Of course, if Fang Yuan refused, he would not be in danger. To think that my gains this time will be this huge. After getting the inheritances, Fang Yuan sighed. In his original plan, he wanted to exterminate Shadow Sect and get rid of Shadow Sect's remnant forces. If he was lucky and went one step further, he would be able to capture Spectral Soul's remnant soul. Of course, he did not bear much hope in that aspect. He knew how hard it was to capture souls. And even if he succeeded, the soul search would be extremely difficult. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1374, Flying Away. Chapter 1374, Flying Away. Spectral Soul was, after all, the founder of Soul Path, a rank 9 venerable, one of the 10 cultivators at the apex in the long span of history. It would be a joke if his soul could be easily searched. Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable cultivated Space Path and created Divine Concealment and Ghostly Concealment, which were in a permanently active state and did not use any immortal essence. Although Spectral Soul's main body did not have immortal essence and goo worms, he absolutely was not to be underestimated. When Purple Mountain True Monarch handed all his inheritances to Fang Yuan, making Fang Yuan the leader of Shadow Sect, Fang Yuan's gains naturally greatly surpassed his previous expectations. Purple Mountain True Monarch wants me to save these people, even though he did not express this verbally. He was afraid I would be suspicious and not agree to accept his gift. He really put in a lot of effort for this. But if I can make good use of these people, they will indeed be a great help to me. They already have no other options, they are my natural allies. I'll bring you all with me then. Fang Yuan had never been a narrow-minded person. Even when he had just transmigrated to this world, he had been like this. His experiences in his previous life and this life made it such that he was much more open-minded than normal people. Bai Ningbing, He Lu Lan, and Black Tigress had all betrayed him. But so what? Fang Yuan completely understood their actions. All these thoughts flashed in his mind for only a moment. Fang Yuan stored Purple Mountain True Monarch's will into his sovereign immortal aperture as well. Without immortal essence and immortal goo, the threat level of this will of Purple Mountain True Monarch was close to 0. In the future, unless he had no choice, Fang Yuan would absolutely not give immortal essence and immortal goo for this purple will to use. The situation was pressing. Fang Yuan did not have time to inspect his gains, immediately communicating with the purple will in his immortal aperture. The question he asked was naturally about the method of controlling the upper extreme heavenly eagle that Purple Mountain True Monarch had mentioned before. It was very risky for Fang Yuan to use reverse flow protection seal right now. As such, the upper extreme heavenly eagle naturally became his first choice. The advantages of the upper extreme heavenly eagle in place of reverse flow protection seal was that it was faster and could penetrate space. Moreover, it was an immemorial desolate beast and had an extremely tough body. Naturally, the precondition was for Fang Yuan to be able to control it. Although Fang Yuan had reputation restriction immortal goo, it was not his and he had only borrowed it from Wu clan. Secondly, this immortal goo was rank 7 and would probably not have enough strength to control the rank 8 upper extreme heavenly eagle. Fang Yuan soon learned of Purple Mountain True Monarch's method. And surprisingly, he actually also knew of this method. This was an enslavement path method and had a relation to a person. This person's name was somewhat strange, he was called 180 slaves. He was an Eastern Sea Gu immortal who had a rough childhood. He was born as a slave. He used every opportunity he got and took risks to continuously grow, finally climbing to the peak of his life. He was an absolute genius of enslavement path in his generation. Normal enslavement path methods were to use a higher status to rule over lower status. But he did the opposite, using beasts of lower status to rule over those of a higher status. Eastern Sea's Zombie Alliance had grasped 180 slaves' inheritance, and put a portion of its contents on sale to Zombie Alliance's members. Shark Demon had once purchased a portion of 180 slaves' true inheritance content. He wanted to use groups of sharks to gain control over that one-finger flow shark. Unfortunately, he was routed by Blazing Heaven Demonis, and with Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance's headquarters being schemed by Shadow Sect, not only him, even his wife Sue by Man was turned into Gu materials to refine Sovereign Immortal Fetus Gu. Shadow Sect's foundation was extremely deep. Purple Mountain True Monarch was a first-generation split soul. He definitely did not have just one method to enslave the immemorial desolate beast Upper Extreme Heavenly Eagle. But what Purple Mountain True Monarch could offer right now was only this method of 180 slaves. To speak of it, it was actually quite fortunate. Purple Mountain True Monarch was in possession of many immortal Gu, but earlier on, he had set up the Purple Blood River Formation. And in his 100,000 years of life, he had been spreading true inheritances everywhere. It was not easy for his current variety of Gu worms to use a method of enslaving the Upper Extreme Heavenly Eagle. This immortal killer move is called 180 slaves. He used his own name for it. It seems that 180 slaves regarded it as his main trump card and his proudest method. This killer move is not difficult, and I have all the required immortal Gu as well. Its mortal Gu are common and can be bought from Treasure Yellow Heaven. It seems Shadow Sect had already modified 180 slaves. What I lack now are Eagle-type Desolate Beasts and Ancient Desolate Beasts. Fong Yuan's thoughts moved rapidly. The Upper Extreme Heavenly Eagle continued to mature while large amounts of heavenly crystals were expended. Fong Yuan began to wantonly buy Eagle-type Desolate Beasts and Ancient Desolate Beasts from Treasure Yellow Heaven. Transactions of live Desolate Beasts and Ancient Desolate Beasts had always had a huge market in Treasure Yellow Heaven. But eagles were somewhat rare among these. Time was pressing. Fong Yuan did not have much choice. He hesitated slightly before making a decision. He recklessly proclaimed in Treasure Yellow Heaven, purchasing Eagle-type Desolate Beasts and Ancient Desolate Beasts at a high price. We can trade with Immortal Gu as well. In an instant, this caused an uproar. Using Immortal Gu to purchase Desolate Beasts and Ancient Desolate Beasts. Immortal Gu were unique and extremely difficult to refine, while Desolate Beasts and Ancient Desolate Beasts were easy to raise and cultivate. He was clearly trading at a loss. However, Fong Yuan had to disregard it. Soon, he attracted the attention of many Gu immortals. I have both Desolate Beast and Ancient Desolate Beast mixed heavenly eagles. What immortal Gu are you selling? The first Gu immortal asked. The mixed heavenly eagle was not a normal eagle. It had an eagle head and a human body, a pair of hands with 5 human fingers and sharp nails. Its feet were that of an eagle, and it had eagle wings. It liked to use a long bone as a staff to fight. This mixed heavenly eagle might have a peculiar appearance, but it is indeed an eagle. I can use it. Fong Yuan thought, before inquiring, how many do you have? I have 33 Desolate Beast mixed heavenly eagles and 7 Ancient mixed heavenly eagles. That Gu immortal responded. Fong Yuan nodded and said without hesitation, I will buy them. I have a rank 6 immortal Gu here. Only a rank 6 immortal Gu. These are 7 Ancient Desolate Beasts. The Gu immortal said in a dissatisfied tone. Fong Yuan was even more dissatisfied, directly shouting, get lost if you are not selling. That Gu immortal's attitude immediately changed. Oh, don't get so angry. I will sell them. How could I not sell? The moment this transaction was completed, it immediately created even more uproar in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Treasure Yellow Heaven's transactions were open, everyone had personally seen both sides transacting. He actually used an immortal Gu to buy the desolate beasts. This is an unprecedented event. There is something wrong with this Gu immortal's brain. Although there are a lot of mixed heavenly eagles, how many immortal materials could they be turned into? Using equivalent immortal materials, they would only be barely enough for 10 attempts in refining that rank 6 immortal Gu he used. Refining immortal Gu was truly too difficult with extremely low success rate. 10 times looked like a lot, but in truth, there were many Gu immortals who had to attempt 50 or 60 times to refine immortal Gu. It is not a fraud, right? Does this immortal Gu has hidden problems? A Gu immortal was doubtful. No chance. This is treasure Yellow Heaven, who can deceive it? The treasure light it emitted was genuine. My turn, I have rainbow chasing eagles, over 100 of them. Someone came to transact. Rainbow chasing eagles were rather small and were all desolate beasts, there had never been an ancient desolate beast level rainbow chasing eagle. This eagle did not have strong battle strength. Wild rainbow chasing eagles like to chase after rainbows, there was little to comment on their other aspects, but in terms of speed, they were outstanding. Alright, this rank 6 immortal Gu is yours. Fang Yuan directly was ready to buy it. The seller asked awkwardly, can we change it to another immortal Gu? I had to raise these rainbow chasing eagles for over 100 years before they could grow to this scale. Fang Yuan's stance was firm, get lost. Trade if you want, or screw off somewhere. Don't. Are you trading or not? Trading. Fang Yuan's divine sense snorted, if I were not in urgent need of eagles, would you people be able to get such benefits? Hurry up, here, take your immortal Gu, my time is precious. Thereupon, the following Gu immortals all started addressing Fang Yuan as senior. The scene was getting crowded, even the Gu immortals who did not have eagle-type desolate beasts gathered to watch this show, to see this eccentric character who was using immortal Gu to buy desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts. Treasure Yellow Heaven's commotion naturally attracted the attention of many forces in the 5 regions. Among them was naturally Heavenly Court, as well as Longevity Heaven and so on. However, they were unable to stop Fang Yuan. Treasure Yellow Heaven had always maintained neutrality, no one could find its location and no one was able to exert influence on it. In just a short while, Fang Yuan had gathered enough eagle-type desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts. For this, Fang Yuan paid for immortal Gu, 3 rank 6 and 1 rank 7. In return, the number of eagles he obtained was shocking, reaching over 400. Most of them were desolate beasts while 20% were ancient desolate beasts. At the same time, he had also gathered enough of the necessary mortal Gu. Fang Yuan began to try activating the immortal killer move 180 slaves. He was careful because this was the first time he was using this move. His speed was slow, even though he could not afford to waste a single second in this current situation. Gu worms after Gu worms were activated, Fang Yuan's progress was quite steady. Guh. Suddenly, his body shook as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. The activation had failed and the backlash caused him injuries. Large amounts of mortal Gu were destroyed and his mental energy was also expended by a lot. Man as before. Instantly, Fang Yuan recovered. He had no expression on his face as he continued to activate the killer move 180 slaves. Failure. Another failure. After repeatedly failing for 3 times, by the 4th time, Fang Yuan resisted an intense headache, finally activating the killer move. A bunch of strange lights covered the upper extreme heavenly eagle. The upper extreme heavenly eagle raised its head and gave a clear and resonant cry, submitting itself to the rule of Fang Yuan. Success. Fang Yuan had no time to be happy as he heard He Lu Lan's voice, quick, I am about to lose control over the Gu formation. Fang Yuan gritted his teeth, immediately letting out the upper extreme heavenly eagle. You will not escape. Fairy Zi Wei's slightly dismayed voice resounded. Fang Yuan had, under her nose, become the new leader of Shadow Sect, and was still trying to escape. He was truly disregarding Fairy Ziwei. But right at this time, Fang Yuan let out Purple Mountain True Monarch's will, along with Immortal Essence and a few Immortal Gu. Fang Yuan, remember what I told you. Leave quickly. The Purple will said this and activated a killer move, pouncing at the Super Gu formation and colliding into it. At the next moment, the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle carried Fang Yuan and the rest, piercing into space, appearing outside the Gu formation. With one flap of its wings, it immediately soared to the sky. With another flap, it had already become a tiny dark dot in the horizon, flying out of everyone's vision. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1375, Battle Ceases. Chapter 1375, Battle Ceases. Another immemorial desolate beast. Someone left the battlefield. It looks like it was from the Super Gu formation's direction. What had actually happened? The upper extreme Heavenly Eagle carried Fang Yuan, Xianxia and the rest, quickly leaving the battlefield, stupefying all the southern border righteous path Gu immortals present on the scene. In fact, when Xianxia and the others were transported by the Super Gu formation, many among them had felt something wrong. Almost all those Gu immortals on the eagle's back are the demonic path scoundrels who attacked us. What exactly is Wu Yi Hai playing at? Quick, let us in. The southern border Gu immortals began to protest. However, there was not even a trace of Fang Yuan left in the Super Gu formation. He had already changed his appearance and fled right under everyone's noses. Qi Gui, something seems to be off. At this moment, in the battlefield, an expert among southern borders righteous path Gu immortals, Old Treeman, went up to Qi Gui's side. It did not matter if the other clan's Gu immortals failed to contact Wu Yi Hai. The main thing was Wu clan and Xiao clan, especially Fairy Si Lu failing to get a response from Wu Yi Hai. There was definitely a problem. Wu Yi Hai had control over the whole Super Gu formation. If he made a mistake, it would definitely be a big and fatal one. Qi Gui nodded solemnly. He also knew the severity of this matter. This Super Gu formation was, after all, personally arranged by Qi clan's first supreme elder, Qi Chuyu. Although Qi Gui was not able to control the Gu formation, he still could inspect the state of the Gu formation. It was just that this would use up his energy and time, and it was rather troublesome. This inspection immediately turned Qi Gui's expression ashen. Bada had been observing Qi Gui, and seeing the latter's expression change to that of shock and terror, his heart jolted and he quickly transmitted his voice. What happened? Lord Wu Yi Hai is missing. The whole Super Gu formation is forcibly controlled by two forces and they are fighting against each other. One has a central continent aura and the other has a northern plains aura. Just based on their auras, they are both rank 8 Gu immortals. Qi Gui said with distress. Bada was immediately dazed. The impact was too heavy. He took a few deep breaths, as sweat started to appear on his forehead. Too dangerous. This situation was too dangerous. Wu Yi Hai has mysteriously gone missing. He is very likely to have been killed. Regardless of how the two rank 8s infiltrated the Super Gu formation, Wu Yi Hai has no chance with his rank 7 cultivation. Bada started to make deductions. Right now, he could not even imagine Fang Yuan was a traitor. This was also the result of Fang Yuan paying attention to small details like changing his appearance before leaving. More importantly, they could not even imagine that Wu Yi Hai, Fang Yuan, would mix in with Shadow Sect. Why? Because not long ago, Ba Quan Fong, this mole in the southern border righteous path forces, had caused the Super Gu formation to be unable to activate. At the crucial moment, Fang Yuan had saved the day and with his help, southern border's righteous forces were able to bring up the second layer of the Super Gu formation. This matter had left a very deep impression on the southern border righteous path Gu immortals. If such a person was Shadow Sect's mole, how could he hinder Shadow Sect's plan at the crucial moment? It probably bodes ill for Wu Yi. Oh, now that I think of it, I am lucky I was plotted against by Ba Quan Fong. If it were me controlling the Super Gu formation right now, Wu Yi's ending would have been my ending. I should be grateful to Wu Yi for replacing me. Qi Gui was inwardly thankful to Fong Yuan. Whether Wu Yi was dead or not, Bada soon accepted it. Bada had already found Wu Yi an eyesore. Even if Wu Yi had a miserable end, he would still look at it like a joke. But now, Bada could not laugh. The Super Gu formation is already out of our control, Shadow Sect has retreated but Heavenly Court is still here, what is their stance? Bada pondered over this serious issue. Previously, Heavenly Court and Southern Border's Righteous Path had stood together to fight Shadow Sect. Now Shadow Sect had left, while Spectral Soul's main body was captured by Duke Long. What stance would Heavenly Court have? Bada did not have any answer to this question. Because, not long ago, Heavenly Court had organized a secret group to invade Northern Plains and destroy Snowy Mountain Blessed Land, but they had to retreat in defeat because of Longevity Heaven. The current situation was extremely similar. Heavenly Court had organized another expedition group to Southern Border. It was not easy to say what their stance was. Although both belonged to the Righteous Path, Bada, who had held a high position in the Righteous Path for a long time, knew something. Politics never placed significance on moral integrity, it was all about benefits. How could they protect their benefits? One word, strength. If the Super Gu formation was still in their control, Southern Border's righteous forces would still have some confidence to negotiate with Heavenly Court. But Wu Yi was gone now, and the Super Gu formation was seized by others. It seemed to be two rank 8 Gu immortals who had seized control, and neither of them were from Southern Border. At this time, in this situation, the more Bada thought, the more unsightly his expression became. But he did not waste too much time thinking. In just a short while, he opened his dried lips and made a difficult decision: retreat. Retreat? We are giving up the Super Gu formation. Our clan's immortal Gu are all here. Qi Gui then pointed at those patches of dream realms. Look at these dream realms, Heavenly Court might have a way to collect them. If we retreat, all the immortal Gu and the dream realms will be lost. Who will bear the responsibility for that? Bada coldly glanced at Qi Gui. Retreat if you want to retreat, if you want to remain, then remain. Leaving behind this sentence, he recalled the last remaining Ba clan Gu immortal and left. Bada's decision immediately created a commotion among the Southern Border Righteous Path Gu immortals. Before Bada left, he had informed all of them regarding their current situation. Wu clan and Xiao clan naturally suffered a huge blow when they heard about Wu Yi being missing. The Super Gu formation was no longer in their control. Most of the Southern Border Gu immortals imitated Bada and started to retreat. Wu Liao, however, did not leave. Wu Yi was Wu Yong's brother. He was now missing, his whereabouts unknown. As a Wu clan Gu immortal, how could Wu Liao easily retreat? I believe Lord Wu Yi is alive and well. Xiao Si Lu thought for a bit, before leaving with Xiao clan's Gu immortals. Most of the Southern Border Gu immortals left, leaving behind Qi Gui, Wu Liao and a few other Gu immortals. They chose to believe in Heavenly Court. After all, it led Central Continent's righteous path. Heaven Overseeing Tower was still tangled up with Zui Yi Hui, neither were able to get the upper hand. Zui Yi Hui held deep hatred towards the Heavenly Court Gu immortals. It was not just a desire to hunt for food. This point had clearly been calculated by Purple Mountain True Monarch. Among Southern Border's Righteous Path Gu immortals, those that wanted to leave had left. Amir will dares to obstruct me. In a short while, Fairy Ziwei was covered in the power of Star Constellation chessboard, finally completely destroying Purple Mountain True Monarch's will. This rank 8 Wisdom Path expert finally completed her goal, grasping control over this Super Gu formation. However, she was not in the least bit happy. Fong Yuan had become the leader of Shadow Sect and escaped right under her nose. Fairy Ziwei was well aware of the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle's speed. She definitely would not be able to catch up to it if she were to give chase now. Fairy Ziwei's mood was extremely bad. After gaining control over the Super Gu formation, she immediately contacted Duke Long. Lord Duke Long, how is the situation there? All she heard was a loud sound. Space cracked open like a mirror, and from within the tear, a rank 8 Gu immortal flew out. Who else could it be but Duke Long? It was just that, if originally, he had an aloof and domineering aura, now, his face was filled with a dark and ferocious grimace, seemingly enduring something. Fairy Ziwei's heart jolted, immediately activating the Super Gu formation to bring Duke Long in. Lord Duke Long, what's wrong? Duke Long said with clenched teeth, Spectral Soul Demon Venerable is indeed Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. I had just moved the door of life and death into my phantom aperture, when that remnant soul of Spectral Soul actually used the door of life and death's power to try to devour my soul. We need to return to Heavenly Court quickly, and use the power of Heavenly Court to separate Spectral Soul's remnant soul from my body and suppress it. Fairy Ziwei's heart sank, she had not expected the situation to be this serious. Spectral Soul Demon Venerable had been a grand rank 9 when alive, even though he was schemed against by Heaven's will and taken captive by Heavenly Court. The moment he was given the slightest chance, the retaliation he unleashed was actually so ferocious. Yes. Fairy Ziwei quickly responded, she naturally would carry out Duke Long's order without doubt. But how should we handle Zui Yi Hui, along with these southern border Gu immortals and Fang Yuan, who has already escaped? Fairy Ziwei thought for a bit and asked. Duke Long said with no hesitation, don't worry about Zui Yi Hui, it cannot catch up to Heaven Overseeing Tower. Forget about these southern border righteous forces, Spectral Soul's main body is already within me. From start to finish, we have not fallen out with southern border, both of us belong to righteous path. Massacring righteous forces is not beneficial to Central Continent's future grand unification of other regions. As for Fang Yuan. As he said this, Duke Long paused and looked at Fairy Ziwei. An ashamed look flashed past Fairy Ziwei's face, I did not handle it properly. However, Duke Long smiled instead, I don't believe you didn't use any method. Fairy Ziwei answered, Lord Duke Long is wise, that thief Fang Yuan has already been struck by my investigative method, as well as the rest of Shadow Sect's members. Good, Southern Border's righteous path reinforcements are coming from all directions, we need to retreat. Duke Long nodded. Finally, the reinforcements of Southern Border's super clans successively arrived at the remains of Tian Mountain. What they saw was a ruined battlefield. Dream realms were everywhere, piled up messily. They were no longer round like before, but were like a range of mountains, scattered here and there. The Super Gu formation had already disappeared without a trace. Since Fairy Ziwei had already gained control of the Super Gu formation, she naturally could break it down. Many of the immortal Gu of Southern Border's righteous forces were taken away by Heavenly Court. Duke Long and Fairy Ziwei then entered Heaven Overseeing Tower and flew to White Heaven. Zui Yi Hui did not intend to let them off, charging into White Heaven. More and more Southern Border Gu immortals gathered here, the scale was so large that it was rarely seen even once in 100 years. Wu Yong, Qi Chu Yu and the others looked at the battlefield with ashen expressions. They had suffered tremendous losses this time. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1376, Evaluating Battle Strength. Chapter 1376, Evaluating Battle Strength. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Wind howled by his ears. Fang Yuan was sitting on the back of the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle, his hair flowing behind due to the wind. Despite the wind having enormous force, Fang Yuan did not budge and remained as stable as a mountain. Any Gu immortal definitely had the ability to resist the wind. Behind him were Wu Xia and the others. They were either slumped, standing, looking at the scene below, or recuperating with closed eyes. Fang Yuan did not have any injuries on him. Even when he had failed several times in activating the killer move 180 slaves, he had healed perfectly with Time Path Immortal Gu Man as before. This killer move, 180 slaves, is indeed amazing. It actually lets me command the immemorial desolate beast upper extreme heavenly eagle. Fang Yuan inwardly exclaimed. According to the contents of this killer move, the more desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts I have, the more freely I can control this upper extreme heavenly eagle. That means, I should purchase more eagle desolate beasts later on, and nurture them properly. Not long ago, Fang Yuan had used 4 immortal Gu to wantonly purchase a large group of eagle-type desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts from Treasure Yellow Heaven. It could not be helped, the situation was urgent. If there was enough time, Fang Yuan absolutely would not make such stupid transactions. Currently, the commotion due to this transaction had yet to fade in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Many Gu immortals were discussing this event and how foolish Fang Yuan was. Possibly only Fang Yuan knew the truth, maybe Heavenly Court could also have guessed something. Fang Yuan inspected his sovereign immortal aperture. Those desolate eagles and ancient desolate eagles were flying in the mini 9 heavens. There were also some eagle nests in mini purple heaven. Fang Yuan had obtained these eagle nests by looting the headquarters of Northern Plains He tribe, Iron Eagle Blessed Land. There were ordinary baby eagles in the nests that were still growing. Using He tribe's method of raising, after these baby eagles matured, they would likely become desolate eagles or even ancient desolate eagles. However, Fang Yuan had already used time path methods to slow down the rate of time in the sovereign immortal aperture. This led to these baby eagles growing up very slowly. As such, Fang Yuan would have to wait a long time for them to grow up into desolate eagles or ancient desolate eagles. For now, it is better to buy from outside. The more eagle beasts I have, the more control I would have over the upper extreme heavenly eagle. Right now, I have over 400 eagles, but I can just barely control it and can only order it to fly. It is not a big problem to make it fight against weak opponents, but it won't obey if I order it to fight strong enemies like Sui Yi Hui. There is even a possibility of backlash. Now that they had escaped from the battlefield, Fang Yuan could calmly think. It was not just this, Fang Yuan also needed to consider and deal with the issues of what these desolate eagles and ancient desolate eagles ate, and what influence they would have to their surroundings. To raise these eagle beasts, Fang Yuan would need a large amount of basic life forms to feed them. This meant he would have to build a complete food chain, and this food chain had to be of a large scale. Fortunately, my sovereign immortal aperture has a very large space. It is more than enough for this large group of eagle beasts. Moreover, the territory is vast but the population is sparse. I can construct independent ecologies without worrying about them being influenced by the inherent environment. It is like a piece of white paper that can be easily painted. I am quite well off right now, with over 100,000 immortal essence stones. Purchasing and raising the eagle beasts is only one aspect, the other thing is to improve reverse flow protection seal. Fang Yuan had become the leader of Shadow Sect after the Giant Dream Realm incident. This greatly surpassed his expectations. Shadow Sect had lost badly. Spectral Soul's main body was captured, leading Fang Yuan to become the biggest eyesore to Heavenly Court. Even if Fang Yuan did not accept the leadership, he would still be targeted by Heavenly Court. Just like Purple Mountain True Monarch said, Fang Yuan was a complete otherworldly demon. Heavenly Court absolutely needed to kill him. As such, Fang Yuan might as well accept the responsibility over Shadow Sect. Wait until I have complete control over the upper extreme heavenly eagle and an improved reverse flow protection seal. I would then have some ability to defend myself against Heavenly Court. As he thought of this, Fang Yuan could not help but think of that majestic heaven overseeing tower, as well as that domineering quasi-rank 9 expert Duke Long. A formless pressure inevitably spread in Fang Yuan's mind. I am still too weak. Even though I have reverse flow protection seal protecting me, it can only let me stand in front of rank 8s and block their attacks. But if they attack endlessly, reverse flow river will be completely consumed in the end. Even though I have the immemorial desolate beast upper extreme heavenly eagle, it does not have enough intelligence and is not as convenient as me making a move myself. Moreover, 180 slaves, this enslavement path killer move can be unraveled. Sigh, my strength is actually increasing rapidly. But what I am facing is Heavenly Court, the strongest Gu immortal force in the whole world. I need to devour immortal apertures and increase my cultivation level quickly. I can take a slight breather when I am at rank 8, rank 7 cultivation is too low. But if I advance to rank 8, the sovereign immortal body's flaw will enlarge, it is hard to resolve. Fang Yuan was facing a dilemma. It is difficult for me to raise my strength, under this situation, do I rely on them? Fang Yuan's gaze scanned around. Ingwu Xie, Bai Ning Bing, He Lu Lan, Black Tigress, Fairy Miao Yin as well as many pure dream reality seeker bodies. Purple Mountain True Monarch had left behind information path Gu worms in his inheritance which recorded these people's situations in detail. Fang Yuan had also just read them. The pure dream reality seeker bodies were all defective goods. Purple Mountain True Monarch had refined them only as a veil to cover the actions of spectral soul's main body. These pure dream reality seeker bodies contained remnant souls of Purple Mountain True Monarch. Unfortunately, after they were refined, the remnant souls had merged into the pure dream reality seeker bodies, unable to be separated. The pure dream reality seeker physique bodies had a time limit, and when that limit was reached, they would self-detonate into dream realms, and these Purple Mountain remnant souls would disappear along with them. This defect could not be resolved even if Purple Mountain True Monarch came back to life. This was also the reason why Spectral Soul's main body had never put its soul into these pure dream reality seeker bodies. Ingwu Xie had also obtained a rank 7 pure dream reality seeker body from a cocoon of light, but he was an exception. Because he was once the original pure dream reality seeker, so the flaw of these defective goods did not affect him. His soul could still freely leave the pure dream reality seeker bodies. As such, although there were many of these pure dream reality seeker immortals, they were not worth nurturing. Fang Yuan had also captured nearly 10 using the Super Gu formation, but they were all released now since they had become his own men. Fang Yuan had originally prepared to put in a lot of effort to research and study this dream path attainment of Shadow Sect, but now that he had Purple Mountain True Monarch's inheritance, he understood them all, saving countless hours of research and trials. The remaining 5 Gu immortals were the true manpower that Fang Yuan could use. Currently, the strongest is undoubtedly Bai Ning Bing, who has inherited Bai Xiang's true inheritance. Unfortunately, we are only allies. Fairy Miao Yin cultivates the profound sound true inheritance. She is one of the 3 great fairies of southern border and is a rank 7, her battle strength is reliable. Black Tigress. Just as Fang Yuan thought of this, dense black fog started to pour out from Black Tigress's whole body. The fog was immediately blown away by the strong wind. The black fog dissipated, revealed a girl with tender skin and large watery eyes. Her whole face was covered with innocence. Lady White Rabbit was back. Lord Wu Yi Hai, no, what should I call you? Lady White Rabbit asked Fang Yuan with a servile tone. He Lu Lan, Bai Ning Bing, and the others looked at her in astonishment. After recovering, Lady White Rabbit's cultivation fell from rank 7 to rank 6. This situation was truly hard to understand. However, Fang Yuan had inherited Purple Mountain True Monarch's inheritance and understood this Black Tigress true inheritance. A Gu immortal who cultivated this true inheritance would normally accumulate strength and burst out with outstanding battle strength when in a fight, beyond their usual limits. However, there was a flaw in it: the user would develop two personalities. One was a dark, sinister side, and the other was a pure, innocent side. The Gu immortal would have the pure, innocent nature when living a normal life, having weak strength. When they face danger to their life or their mood gets intensely agitated, they would turn to the dark, sinister nature. This dark side had strong battle strength, but could only be maintained for a short period of time. Both sides shared the same senses and memories, but they usually had different thought processes. However, this was not a problem to Fang Yuan. Because Lady White Rabbit already admired Wu Yi, while Black Tigress was recruited by Purple Mountain True Monarch to be a member of Shadow Sect. No matter which side it was, they were both loyal to Fang Yuan. Don't be afraid. I also had my own problems, so I had to hide my true identity from you. You can call me Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan warmly smiled at Lady White Rabbit. Lady White Rabbit seemed to be unable to accept it completely, as she acknowledged timidly. Fang Yuan sighed inwardly. Black Tigress has first-rate battle strength among rank 7, but it is not stable. Now, only He Lulan and Ning Wuxie remain. He Lulan is the most loyal, but she only has rank 6 cultivation. She has the great strength true martial physique, but this natural talent is wasted by cultivating fire path, and she is bent on avenging her mother. Relying on the exquisite blazing heaven true inheritance, her battle strength can barely reach first rate in rank 7, but she is definitely the weakest. As for Ning Wuxie, Fang Yuan gazed at Ning Wuxie, who was slumped down on the back of the eagle and was looking at the sky with a dazed look. He seemed to have had his back removed, his whole body was limp like jelly, and his expression was extremely dark. Fang Yuan shook his head. Actually, Ning Wuxie, who possessed lead soul into dream, could erupt with battle strength that could stably occupy the number 1 position in strength. Even Fang Yuan had to be apprehensive of him. But such a person had no fighting spirit left. Even if he had lead soul into dream, what could one hope from him? Ning Wuxie, hand over all your Gu worms to me. Fang Yuan suddenly spoke. Ning Wuxie did not speak. There was no response, as if he was a statue. Fang Yuan's voice became sharp. Ning Wuxie, I am the leader of Shadow Sect, are you disobeying me? Ning Wuxie did not budge, his heart seemed to be withered in grief. A sharp light flashed past Fang Yuan's eyes, and he was just about to take action when suddenly, a strong pressure erupted from overhead. An immortal Gu house appeared. Shadow Sect remnants, E-Clan is here, where do you think you are escaping to? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1377, Immortals vs Immortal Gu House. Chapter 1377, Immortals vs Immortal Gu House. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. A vast aura descended and swept across them. Fang Yuan, along with Shadow Sect's immortals, got a jolt as their gazes focused. One of E-Clan's immortal Gu houses, Bay Pavilion. Fang Yuan blurted out the name of this immortal Gu house. He had laid low in Wu Clan for a long period of time in Wu Yi's identity. During this period of time, besides managing his immortal aperture and exploring dream realms, he naturally did some other things as well. For instance, using Wu Clan's channels to get detailed information of Southern Border's Gu immortal world. As such, when Bay Pavilion appeared, Fang Yuan immediately recognized it. Bay Pavilion was not tall, it only had 2 stories and looked flat. The pavilion was covered with ocean blue tiles, and it looked like a hawk spreading its wings. Golden islands were portrayed on the white walls, and blue waves were painted freely on the exposed columns. It had the style of Eastern Sea. Although E-Clan was one of Southern Border's super forces, it was located in the northeast corner and had a close relation with Eastern Sea. This Bay Pavilion's strongest ability was to cross long distances. It could shoot through over 70,000 li directly. Southern Border's Super Gu formation was invaded by Shadow Sect, and Heavenly Court also took part. E-Clan chose to mobilize Bay Pavilion, which was specialized in long-range chases. It was the best choice. Fang Yuan used the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle to escape from the Dream Realm battlefield and was planning to go to plunder Shadow Earth Trench. But Bay Pavilion just happened to move towards the direction of Fang Yuan and the group. Bay Pavilion's investigative range was extremely large. The Gu immortals in the pavilion had already learned of the situation in the Dream Realm battlefield, and when they found traces of the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle, they immediately gave chase. The upper extreme Heavenly Eagle was extremely fast, but Bay Pavilion could travel through space and cross tens of thousands of li in an instant. After a few warps through space, Bay Pavilion finally caught up with Fang Yuan and blocked their path. Although Fang Yuan and the rest were shocked, they soon reacted. After all, they had just escaped from a battlefield, their nerves were still tense and they were on guard. Move! Fang Yuan controlled the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle to shoot towards Bay Pavilion. At the same time, he took a step and nimbly jumped from the eagle's back. Before jumping, he did not forget to grab below him. Xianxia was grabbed by Fang Yuan. He was like a living corpse, his eyes were still open and did not even blink. At the same time as Fang Yuan, Bai Ningbing, He Lu Lan and the rest also jumped. Boom boom. There were two strong sounds. The upper extreme Heavenly Eagle waved its strong wings directly at Bay Pavilion. Bay Pavilion was immediately pushed quite a distance by the strong force, but there was no damage. A warm light blue radiance started to spread from it. When it just spread, this light blue radiance was only a layer of thin light covering Bay Pavilion. But soon, the blue light quickly spread outwards, dyeing the surrounding space of Bay Pavilion into a blue world. The blue light kept on surging and getting denser, and was also producing gushing sounds, like water waves. Suddenly, an elephant trampled out of the blue light. This elephant's size was slightly inferior in size to the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle, but a normal person would be as small as a cat when compared to it. It had a wide back and looked like a 7-story building, with doors and windows. It was truly strange. This is a wild beast specific to Eastern Sea, story-building water elephant. There are 7 stories on its back, which means it is an ancient desolate beast. Fang Yuan immediately recognized it. He was very familiar with the story-building water elephant, because he had personally seen it before in the Eastern Sea Trading Convention. However, this story-building water elephant in front of him was not a real life form, but a certain defensive method used by Bay Pavilion. As for its battle strength and how it compared to a true ancient story-building water elephant, it still needed to be tested out. Fang Yuan retreated with Xianxia and the rest, while using 180 slaves to command the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle, kill this story-building water elephant. The upper extreme Heavenly Eagle accepted the command and let out a sharp cry. It descended on the story-building water elephant, then grabbed at it. Plop! The story-building water elephant could not resist the sharp eagle claws and was directly pierced through, collapsing instantly. It turned back into a blue light that returned to Bay Pavilion. Such strength! It is indeed an immemorial desolate beast. Inside Bay Pavilion, E-Clan's Gu immortals were also paying attention to this probe, but the result made them exclaim in shock. The upper extreme Heavenly Eagle was already fostered, although its growth was quickened. There were enough heavenly crystals, letting it gain true rank 8 battle strength. It was not like last time. He Lu Lan, Fairy Miao Yin and others let out sighs of relief. This story-building water elephant is weaker than normal ancient desolate beasts. Even a true ancient story-building water elephant is not the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle's match, let alone this one which is much weaker. Fang Yuan's mood, however, was somewhat heavy. This ability, it should be the immortal killer move water life resurrection. This move can create countless water lifeforms and use them for battle. Its strength is that even if the formed beasts are destroyed, as long as the blue light returns, the loss will be very small. Bay Pavilion can recreate them easily. Sure enough, in just a short while, story-building water elephants condensed from Bay Pavilion again. They all had 7 stories with ancient desolate level battle strength. Moreover, there were even more of them this time, 5 in total. 5 water elephants condensed by the blue light charged towards the upper extreme heavenly eagle. Fang Yuan thought, water life resurrection, according to Wu Clan's analysis, not only involves transformation path and water path immortal Gu, it also has light path immortal Gu. It is impossible to break this move right away. This move can greatly expend its enemy's battle strength. I cannot get caught up in Yi Clan's flow. The moment this thought flashed through Fang Yuan's mind, he controlled the upper extreme heavenly eagle to directly attack Bay Pavilion, disregarding the story-building water elephants. At the same time, Fang Yuan gave a command to the Shadow Sect immortals: we need to help the upper extreme heavenly eagle and destroy these 5 water elephants. He Lu Lan was the first to respond. She stretched out her right arm, her 5 fingers moved together without any gaps between them, and lightly jabbed at a story-building water elephant. Boom! A burning crimson ray of light erupted from between her fingers, and with breakneck speed, it pierced through the air towards the water elephant. This immortal killer move's speed was truly astonishing. The crimson ray completely pierced through the story-building water elephant, destroying it instantly. Fairy Miao Yin was the second to strike. Another 2 pairs of arms suddenly grew out from her body, and along with her 2 original arms, the 6 arms spread out like a blooming lotus. The 6 hands moved by themselves, the smooth long fingers were moving in a dazzling motion. Ding ding, dang dang. Cling cling, clang clang. With the movement of her fingers, sharp sounds could be heard whenever they touched. At the same time, concentrated, translucent sound waves appeared around 3 water elephants. The sound waves appeared quickly and vanished just as quickly. The 3 water elephants were covered in the sound waves, the injuries on them quickly accumulated. They charged left and right, trying to throw off the sound waves, but the sound waves followed them like shadows. Soon, these 3 water elephants were killed, turning into 3 blue lights that returned to the immortal Gu house. Earlier, Fang Yuan had only seen information on these 2 immortal killer moves, he did not witness their effects. But now, it was different. He Lu Lan is using the fire path killer move Crimson Ray. Fairy Miao Yin is using her trump card, Wondrous Hand Profound Sound. These 2 immortal killer moves had originated from Purple Mountain True Monarch, and Purple Mountain True Monarch had given all his inheritances to Fang Yuan, thus Fang Yuan knew them clearly. However, Fang Yuan did not thoroughly understand Bai Ningbing's killer move. 4 water elephants were already destroyed. Bai Ningbing, in her white robe, was crossing her arms across her chest, her dragon eyes flashing with cold light. She seemed to have not made a move, but she had actually already activated her killer move. The final story-building water elephant had soundlessly already frozen into a giant ice block. But soon, the frozen story-building water elephant turned back into a blue light that passed through the ice layer and returned to Bay Pavilion, unobstructed. Bai Ningbing coldly snorted when she saw this. Fang Yuan's expression slightly shifted as he thought of many things, gaining a deeper understanding of the Gu immortals on his side. He Lu Lan is restricted by the alliance agreement, and has no choice but to follow me completely, so she had the fastest response and had no hesitation. Fairy Miao Yin did not hesitate on using her trump card, handling 3 story-building water elephants by herself, as if she wants to prove her loyalty towards me. As for Bai Ningbing, she inherited Bai Xiang's true inheritance and we are only allies. The killer move she used should be Cold Eyes. She tried to freeze the story-building water elephant and prevent the blue light from returning. Unfortunately, it is of no use. All kinds of thoughts flashed through Fang Yuan's mind, as he threw Ing Wuxie behind him. Behind him was Lady White Rabbit. Right now, she still had rank 6 cultivation, and had a terrified expression as she looked at the fight between the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle and Bay Pavilion. "Take him and retreat to the back," Fang Yuan said to Lady White Rabbit, without turning around. Lady White Rabbit quickly agreed and obediently retreated far away. Fang Yuan slightly flew forward and took a deep breath, his body suddenly let out dazzling silver light. Red Date Immortal Essence was consumed rapidly as Immortal Gu were activated. Rank 6 Change Form Immortal Gu. Rank 7 Dragon Breath Immortal Gu. Rank 6 Dragon Scales Immortal Gu. Rank 7 Dragon Strength Immortal Gu. At the same time, a large amount of mortal Gu like Dragon Scales Gu, Dragon Horn Gu, Dragon Claws Gu, Dragon Eyes Gu, and so on were also activated. Immortal Killer Move, Ancient Sword Dragon Transformation. The bright silver light suddenly dissipated, Fang Yuan had disappeared, in his place was an elegant silver sword dragon that was emitting a sharp, awe-inspiring aura. The sword dragon growled lightly, it grabbed two pure dream reality seeker bodies with its claws, and then swung its tail. Immortal Gu Sword Escape. Whoosh! The ancient sword dragon Fang Yuan had transformed into disappeared from the spot. Fang Yuan's whole field of vision suddenly blurred, the next moment, his sight was mostly covered with the roof of Bay Pavilion. He was already above Bay Pavilion. There was no hesitation. Fang Yuan flicked the two pure dream reality seeker bodies down like bullets. Under the astonished gazes of Lady White Rabbit and the group, two pure dream reality seeker immortals detonated, turning back into two dream realms that covered Bay Pavilion. The upper extreme Heavenly Eagle lightly turned its body and quickly moved away from the range of the dream realms. Bay Pavilion was in a commotion. "Oh no, this is Dream Realm. This is bad, Bay Pavilion cannot block the dream realms, the entire Immortal Gu house will be corroded and break down. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1378, Wu Yong's Chase. Chapter 1378, Wu Yong's Chase. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Even Heaven Overseeing Tower, which had rank 9 Fate Immortal Gu, was corroded when it fell into a dream realm. In the battle of the giant dream realm, Duke Long had personally tried it and Heaven Overseeing Tower had been in its phantom state as well, but it was not spared. Heaven Overseeing Tower faced such a situation, there was no need to discuss the rank 7 Immortal Gu house, Bay Pavilion. The moment it was trapped in the dream realms, the whole of Bay Pavilion began to slowly break apart. E-Clan's Gu immortals sensed they had lost control over a large amount of Gu worms. This situation immediately gave these E-Clan Gu immortals an unprecedented shock. Without any hesitation, they began to activate Bay Pavilion's strongest method. Immortal Killer Move, Boundless Sea and Sky. Bay Pavilion rumbled and burst out with dazzling blue light, but it could not pierce through the dream realms. However, the Immortal Killer Move was still activated. The next moment, Bay Pavilion suddenly disappeared. It crossed a whole 70,000 li and arrived at another area, completely leaving the battlefield. The whole of Bay Pavilion was in ruins, and no longer looked as majestic as before. The E-Clan Gu immortals took large breaths, some were even soaked in sweat. "We escaped. That was truly dangerous, if we were just a little slower, we might have truly been trapped. The dream realms are too terrifying. Even an Immortal Gu house has no resistance. No wonder someone prophesied that Great Dream Immortal Venerable would be the strongest venerable. Damn it, we could not catch those Shadow Sect scoundrels." E-Clan's Gu immortals rejoiced for a while before they clenched their teeth. They had retreated, it was too late for them to go back. Shadow Sect's members would have definitely used the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle to escape. Not long ago, when Bay Pavilion had discovered traces of Fang Yuan and the others, they had to spend quite a bit of effort before they were able to catch up. According to both sides' strength, E-Clan, which had the rank 7 Immortal Gu house, should have been slightly stronger. Even though the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle was rank 8, it had no way to deal with Bay Pavilion in a short period of time. E-Clan could attack, defend, advance or retreat freely. On the other hand, Fang Yuan's side was a motley crew of Gu immortals, they could be dealt with one by one. What increased the confidence of E-Clan's Gu immortals even more was that as long as they delayed for some time, they could wait for reinforcements from other super forces. They possessed a rank 7 immortal Gu house, they only had to make no mistakes and they would be able to delay Fang Yuan and the others. In fact, E-Clan Gu immortals did exactly that. They had activated the Immortal Killer move Water Life Resurrection for a prolonged battle. It was just that Fang Yuan's reaction was too fast, he directly used 2 pure Dream Reality Seeker bodies as Immortal Killer moves and sent them at Bay Pavilion. This had completely caught E-Clan off guard. E-Clan Gu immortals also knew of some details about the Battle of the Giant Dream Realm, but they had never expected Fang Yuan would be so vicious, sacrificing his own allies so ruthlessly. Another thing was that Fang Yuan had transformed into an ancient sword dragon, which had an extremely fast speed. His transformation path Dao marks turned into sword path Dao marks, added to the sword path Dao marks from the continuous use of sword eyebrows Immortal Gu, along with sword escape Immortal Gu as well as the ancient sword dragon's own speed, it produced an extremely extraordinary burst of speed. If Fang Yuan had moved with his own body, using only sword escape Immortal Gu and carrying 2 pure Dream Reality Seeker bodies, he would still have been fast, but E-Clan's Gu immortals would be able to react and respond. E-Clan's Gu immortals had unsightly expressions. They had Bay Pavilion, but were still attacked by Fang Yuan. Bay Pavilion was in a ruined state and had suffered much damage. More importantly, they had lost face, having already notified other southern border righteous path Gu immortals. When they arrived, how would the E-Clan Gu immortals face them? Bay Pavilion was a scene of silence. A while later, the leader of this group of E-Clan Gu immortals spoke, "Let's quickly repair Bay Pavilion. Although we fell into the dream realms, there is no damage to the Immortal Gu. The spare Mortal Gu we brought over can restore Bay Pavilion completely within a few minutes. The enemy is powerful, he can actually control the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle to such a degree. What's even more terrifying is that he doesn't even frown at killing his own allies, such a nature is simply too ruthless. We tried hard, but how could we resist the dream realms? I had wanted to fight these demons to death, but looking at the big picture, we had no other choice than to escape and send this information to other righteous path Gu immortals." E-Clan's leader poured out words after words, while the other Gu immortals nodded in agreement. The facts could not be changed. But with these words, it gave them a completely different feeling. After the E-Clan leader said his words, he began to contact Wu Yong and other righteous path Gu immortals, informing them of the situation here. What? They were actually defeated. Didn't they have Bay Pavilion? They could still lose. Hehe, look at their excuses, E-Clan is truly shameless. But we have the information now. For instance, upper extreme Heavenly Eagle as well as ancient sword dragon transformation. At the mention of the ancient sword dragon transformation, these righteous path Gu immortals in the dream realm battlefield looked at each other. They unavoidably thought of a person. Lu Guanyi. Lu Guanyi is a demonic path Gu immortal who also cultivates ancient sword dragon transformation. Do you think this shadow sect Gu immortal is him? Not necessarily. Transforming into an ancient sword dragon is only an immortal killer move. Moreover, in the Battle of Reverse Flow River, Lu Guanyi clearly was hostile towards Shadow Sect. Lu Guanyi is a Northern Plains Gu immortal, but that person had Southern Border aura. But this is not a clear indication. If he is a Shadow Sect member, then it is not strange for him to have methods to conceal his aura. For instance, doesn't Wu Clan have an immortal killer move to change their aura to other regions? Some people look towards Wu Yong. Wu Yong had a serious expression. Whether that person is Lu Guanyi or not, we need to find my brother, Wu Yihai's whereabouts. Who wants to chase Shadow Sect with me? He spoke clearly, his voice spreading throughout the whole scene. Lord Wu Yong is kind-hearted, you are still worried about your brother, it truly makes me emotional. We will go. I am willing to see Lord Wu Yong's divine might. The other southern border righteous path Gu immortals responded one after the other. Wu Yong's performance in the Purple Blood River Formation had been spread throughout southern borders Gu immortal world by Tai Mianshen. This information circulation speed could not be doubted. Any Gu immortal, as long as they had cultivated to rank 8, would become the center of attention no matter the location. Because their every move, even if unintended, would cause huge and long-lasting repercussions to their surroundings. Wu Yong was the leader of Wu clan, and he had revealed their fourth immortal Gu house, clear jade dripping wind tiny bamboo building, making southern borders Gu immortals acknowledge his power. Adding on that Wu clan held the number 1 position, Wu Yong's call was immediately responded to by many. This bunch of people are still crafty, they want to hide behind me and make my Wu clan the vanguard. Wu Yong sneered internally. Wu Yong, naturally, was a person who went after practical interests, but he could not do that now. He had to show some effort on the surface. His little brother was missing. As an older brother, he had to look like he had done his best to save his brother. Especially since the Life Tablet Gu and Soul Lantern Gu related to Fang Yuan in Wu clan's ancestral hall had not shattered. Moreover, as the head of the righteous path, he must take charge of the whole situation, otherwise with the interests of southern borders righteous path being infringed, if he did not stand up, his and Wu clan's prestige would fall sharply. Naturally, the more important reason was that Fang Yuan had borrowed 6 immortal Gu from Wu clan. A total of 6 immortal Gu. As well as the huge sum of 100,000 immortal essence stones. Among these immortal Gu was bloodline immortal Gu, which Wu Yong had personally approved before it was lent to Fang Yuan. Even those 100,000 immortal essence stones were personally initiated to be given to Fang Yuan by Wu Yong. Now that Wu Yihai was missing, the greatest responsibility fell on Wu Yong's head. If Wu Yong did not give chase, not only could he not have any explanation to give to southern borders righteous path Gu immortals, he would not even be able to give an explanation to Wu clan. Immediately, clear jade dripping wind tiny bamboo building led the southern border experts and gave chase in the direction of the upper extreme heavenly eagle. Although Yi clan was beaten back by Fang Yuan and lost track of the upper extreme heavenly eagle, Wu Yong had another method. He immediately sent a message to Wu clan, Supreme Elder Wu Fa, take out the relevant immortal Gu from the treasury and assemble the life location searching Gu formation, put Wu Yihai's life tablet Gu and soul lantern Gu in the formation and deduce his location. Wu Fa was Wu Yong's trusted aide, he immediately accepted the order and quickly took action. Wu Yong gathered battle information. According to Heavenly Court's performance, they did not make a move against southern borders Gu immortals, but they had plundered the battlefield before leaving, sweeping away many immortal Gu belonging to the southern border forces. Southern border would definitely want to settle the score with Central Continent. However, at present, Wu Yong needed to prioritize saving Wu Yihai. Heavenly Court was powerful, it would be difficult to try getting back the immortal Gu from them. It was better to just give chase after Shadow Sect, which was not that strong, and since Wu Yihai's life tablet had not shattered, he might have indeed been captured by them. Naturally, since Shadow Sect has information path methods to break my life tablet Gu and soul lantern Gu to create a false image of my death, they likely can kill Wu Yihai without letting the life tablet Gu and soul lantern Gu shatter. Their aim would be to lure us into chasing them. Wu Yong considered carefully. This thought also flashed past his mind. However, he still chose to give chase regardless of this. Because this time, there was not only him, there were countless other southern border righteous path Gu immortals, rank 8 Gu immortal Chi Chu Yu and several immortal Gu houses. With such a battle force, Wu Yong was confident of crushing Shadow Sect even if they laid an ambush. In front of absolute power, all schemes and plots were useless. At the same time, the upper extreme heavenly eagle was flying with all its strength. On the eagle's back, Fang Yuan was sitting cross-legged, his eyes closed as he quietly activated a mysterious immortal Gu. Perceivable Dao. Soon after, Fang Yuan stopped activating it, his expression solemn. There are indeed many information path Dao marks added on my body, I have probably been struck by some information path killer move. The probability of southern borders righteous path Gu immortals having done this is low, it is more likely to have been done by Central Continent's Heavenly Court, particularly Fairy Z-Wei. No matter what, I need to quickly get to plunder Shadow Earth Trench and use information path methods to resolve this information path killer move. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1379, Star Constellations Method. Chapter 1379, Star Constellations Method. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. White Heaven. Boom. A tower broke through the air, flying rapidly in white heaven while leaving behind a long trail of wind. Wherever it went, the surrounding beast groups would feel threat and flee, because this tower was releasing an intense rank 9 aura. It was Heaven Overseeing Tower. After the Battle of the Giant Dream Realm, Heavenly Court plundered Southern Border's Super Gu formation, taking away all the Gu worms with them. Right now, Heaven Overseeing Tower had already been repaired to its original condition by the many Central Continent Gu immortals. At the top of the tower, there was only Duke Long and Fairy Z-Wei. It seems Southern Border's White Heaven has not been influenced by luck suppression Heavenly Palace. Fairy Z-Wei stopped looking at the outside world, and turned towards Duke Long. A trace of worry was revealed on her beautiful face. Duke Long was sitting cross-legged on the ground, his brows tightly knotted and his face ashen, his expression turning ruthless from time to time. His strong body was like a monolith, even though he was sitting down, he gave a feeling of a huge pillar that could support the sky. Truly worthy of being spectral soul demon venerable, even just a small remnant soul could be a huge trouble to Lord Duke Long. Lord Duke Long wanted to take the door of life and death for Heavenly Court, but who could have thought it would be used by spectral soul? Fairy Z-Wei was worried on one hand, while also being full of admiration towards Duke Long. In this journey, Heavenly Court had swept away the disgrace from the defeat in Northern Plains. They had rampaged through the battlefield and taken spectral soul captive. This was mostly the contribution of Duke Long. Without Duke Long fighting, they absolutely could not have such an impressive result. Just as she was thinking, Duke Long slowly opened his eyes. Lord Duke Long, is there anything I can help you with? Fairy Z-Wei quickly came forward and asked. Duke Long slowly shook his head. Don't worry, Spectral Soul is putting up his futile final resistance now. I have already gained control over the situation. As long as we return to Heavenly Court and use Heavenly Court's power, we can easily suppress him. That's good. According to this speed, we should have more than enough time. Fairy Z-Wei let out a breath of relief. However, Duke Long continued, but we need to prepare for unexpected mishaps. If my soul is devoured by Spectral Soul, he will most likely pretend to be me. So, once we return to Heavenly Court, immediately confine and seal me, then use every method in Heavenly Court to carry out a detailed inspection. If I suppress Spectral Soul, I will naturally cooperate. If Spectral Soul has devoured me, he will give himself away at that time. If he continues to pretend and does not resist being sealed by Heavenly Court, he would become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Duke Long had considered everything, not giving even the slightest opportunity to Spectral Soul. Fairy Z-Wei quickly acknowledged. After a while of silence, Duke Long asked, "What's the situation regarding Fong Yuan?" Fairy Z-Wei answered, "Some time ago, Immortal Gu House Bay Pavilion of Southern Borders E-Clan unexpectedly ran into Fong Yuan's group. Unfortunately, they could not stop him. Fong Yuan is too crafty, he guessed Bay Pavilion might have found them due to him being tracked, so he used Immortal Gu to inspect himself and he truly did find something fishy. But Fairy Z-Wei revealed a confident smile. Even if he found out, so what? My investigative killer move was activated with the help of Immortal Gu House Star Constellation chessboard. This was the method Star Constellation Immortal Venerable used in the past. That's good. Duke Long felt assured, and slowly closed his eyes again. Southern Border. The upper extreme Heavenly Eagle was flying quickly while carrying Fong Yuan and the others. A sharp eagle cry resounded throughout the sky, scaring away all the birds in a huge surrounding area. The journey was unimpeded, they did not see Bay Pavilion again. Shadow Sect's immortals slightly let down their guard. An earth trench gradually appeared in their sights. The earth trench was deep and dark, its depths unable to be seen. Even though it was a sunny day, the earth trench was filled with darkness. This is Plunder Shadow Earth Trench. Fang Yuan stood up and looked down at the full view of Plunder Shadow Earth Trench. When Xianxia had led Shadow Sect, Fang Yuan had chased them to northern plains, where they awakened Purple Mountain True Monarch. After the Battle of Reverse Flow River, Purple Mountain True Monarch led Shadow Sect's remnant forces to Eastern Sea from northern plains, before coming to southern border. This Plunder Shadow Earth Trench was their temporary headquarters. After the Battle of the Giant Dream Realm, Fang Yuan's identity of Wu Yi Hai was already exposed. Even if Heavenly Court had not exposed it, this false identity could not be used anymore. And after a strange series of coincidences, Fang Yuan had become the new leader of Shadow Sect, so he brought the remnant forces of Shadow Sect here to rest and reorganize. Swoosh! The upper extreme Heavenly Eagle folded its wings and began to swoop down to plunder Shadow Earth Trench. Soon, it entered the Earth Trench with Fang Yuan and the others, disappearing into the boundless darkness. Although the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle was enormous, it could not be compared to Plunder Shadow Earth Trench. Entering the depths of Plunder Shadow Earth Trench, the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle was like a small bird by the side of a warship. All kinds of strange and ghastly sounds entered the ears of Fang Yuan and the group. Amongst the shadows were auras of many desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts. Most of them were shadow monsters. Shadow monsters were a type of beast usually born in areas with dense dark path Dao marks. Plunder Shadow Earth Trench was undoubtedly such a place. Although shadow monsters were beasts, they still had the innate instinct to avoid danger. The upper extreme Heavenly Eagle's immemorial aura frightened them, and they dispersed by themselves without needing Fang Yuan to drive them away. Fang Yuan and the others smoothly arrived at their destination. This was not the deepest area of Plunder Shadow Earth Trench, but a cave in a steep mountain wall. The cave entrance was wide, even the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle could squeeze in, albeit with some difficulty. After they entered the cave, Fang Yuan and the others got off the eagle. Fang Yuan put the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle back in his immortal aperture as he moved inside the cave. With Purple Mountain True Monarch's inheritance, it was a piece of cake for Fang Yuan to reach the main area, and he had no obstruction in getting control over the Gu formation here. This Gu formation is pretty good. It is arranged by using the dense dark path Dao marks here. Only mortal Gu are used, but it has the might of an immortal Gu formation, and its best effect is to prevent the deductions of others. Those who were able to use the natural Dao marks in the environment to construct a Gu formation definitely had great Grandmaster attainment level. This was not hard for Shadow Sect. With Fang Yuan's current formation path Grandmaster attainment, he could only see through this formation roughly and did not deeply understand its workings. It was impossible for him to construct this formation currently. Fang Yuan was able to let out a sigh of relief here. He did not immediately try to remove the investigative killer move on him. Instead, he summoned the other Gu immortals one by one to have discussions with them alone. As the leader of Shadow Sect, Fang Yuan naturally needed to do such a matter. Lady White Rabbit was extremely obedient, she would answer whatever Fang Yuan asked. Fairy Miao Yin was somewhat bold. After quickly replying to a question from Fang Yuan, she often asked Fang Yuan back. Her eyes occasionally gave off coquettish glances, and she even asked who was prettier between her and Xiao Si Lu. And, in the discussion with He Lu Lan, Fang Yuan took the initiative to mention that if He Lu Lan made a huge contribution, he could consider removing her alliance agreement and restoring her freedom. Speaking of which, He Lu Lan's awkward situation was actually somewhat because of Fang Yuan. After Fang Yuan had reborn, he had changed many of the original events. Before his rebirth, He Lu Lan had already killed He Qing with the help of Blazing Heaven Demoness, and completed her revenge. She found her true self, and with Attitude Gu, she sought to gain control of He tribe. Her future prospects had been bright and clear. After the Battle of Tian Mountain, He Lu Lan lost her aunts, and with a strange combination of many factors that were not in her control, she finally ended up becoming Fang Yuan's subordinate. Just like how Xianxia considered He Lu Lan to be a talent, Fang Yuan thought similarly. Then there was Bai Ning Bing. Even if you didn't look for me, I would have looked for you. Bai Ning Bing spoke first. Her attitude was completely different from the others. She was holding her arms across her chest and looking down at Fong Yuan. You have made Heavenly Court your enemy, Southern Border's righteous path also won't let you go. What is your plan now? Bai Ning Bing asked. She had taken part in the Battle of the Giant Dream Realm as well, and was now in the same camp as Fong Yuan. Southern Border's righteous path similarly would not let her off. I will first process the gains of Shadow Sect's resources, then I will think about it step by step. Fong Yuan said. The Giant Dream Realm was gone and Wu Yihai's identity was exposed. Fong Yuan had lost this cultivation shortcut. However, after becoming the leader of Shadow Sect, what Fong Yuan gained was much greater than his losses. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1380, Location Exposed. Chapter 1380, Location Exposed. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Shadow Sect might have been thoroughly beaten, with Spectral Soul captured and only Ying Wuxia and Sixth Hair remaining as viable split souls, but it still had many resources left behind. Immortal Gu and immortal materials only occupied a small portion. The keys were Immortal Gu recipes, Immortal Killer moves, Immortal Gu houses and so on. There were massive amounts of Immortal Gu recipes, countless Immortal Killer moves, and even 12 construction plans of Immortal Gu houses. Profound Ice House, Unbreakable Iron Fortress, Blood River Chariot, Nightmare Castle, Green Wave Pavilion, Weaving Cocoon Manor, Golden Altar, Regret Pool, Sacred Feather City. There were also clues to all kinds of true inheritances. For instance, by Xiang's true inheritance, even the secret of 5 Xiangs, the true inheritance of Paradise Earth in the Blue Dragon Whale, clues to Red Lotus true inheritance, clues to Reckless Savage's true inheritance. Naturally, these true inheritances were hard to obtain. If not for this, Shadow Sect would have already taken them and used them to increase their foundation, and help in refining Sovereign Immortal Fetus Gu. Even without these clues, just Spectral Soul's own true inheritances were an enormous gain. Spectral Soul Demon Venerable had used all kinds of soul path methods to massacre life forms of the 5 regions. His soul-devouring method could absorb the experiences and memories of its prey. His split soul technique created generations of Shadow Sect members. His soul replacement technique could create a masterpiece spy like Sixth Hair, and he had even inserted a spy in Heavenly Court. Furthermore, his own soul cultivation, his final form, Fong Yuan could clearly remember how Spectral Soul had used his soul alone to resist the tribulations in the Battle of Tian Mountain. Right now, there were 2 most important matters in front of Fong Yuan. First was Information Path. He needed to resolve the investigative killer move on him as well as various alliance agreements, and regain his freedom. Second was Wisdom Gu. Fong Yuan had now already grasped the method to undo the soul path Dao marks in his immortal zombie body. At that time, he could regain Wisdom Gu's acknowledgement and obtain the massive help of the Light of Wisdom. Bai Ning Bing continued, I already have Yin Yang Rotation Gu now, but I need to advance it to immortal level before I can reverse this female body. But refinement path is too vast and profound. Yin Yang Rotation Gu is also not my vital Gu. I don't have confidence in doing so. Fong Yuan nodded, I understand. Shadow Sect will help you refine it. This is what your agreement with Shadow Sect was. I am now the leader of Shadow Sect. I can also acknowledge the previous agreement. Because we will need to rely on each other for a long time now, isn't that right? It is good you have such awareness. Bai Ning Bing lightly glanced at Fong Yuan, before leaving in satisfaction. To speak of it, Shadow Sect had more women than men. Bai Ning Bing, He Lu Lan, Lady White Rabbit and Fairy Miao Yin were all female immortals, only Ying Wuxia and Fong Yuan were males. After this round of discussions, Fong Yuan, the new Shadow Sect leader, had obtained true acknowledgement. As for Ying Wuxia, he was still in a dispirited state. He turned a deaf ear to everything Fong Yuan said. Killing intent surged in Fang Yuan's mind and he wanted to end Wu Xie's life, taking all the immortal Gu as well as grasping an excellent method like lead soul into dream. However, Fang Yuan thought of it and decided there was no hurry for now. He had already grasped all the contents of lead soul into dream, and only lacked the Gu worms, but this move had a huge burden on a Gu immortal's mind. It was also complex and very difficult to learn, and there were other aspects that were even more difficult to take into consideration. Even if Fang Yuan took the immortal Gu, he would have to spend some time before he could be proficient in it. Naturally, he also had other methods. For instance, the soul-devouring method. As long as he devoured Wu Xie's soul, Fang Yuan would have memories and large amounts of experience related to lead soul into dream. Back then, when Wu Xie had just been born, he was able to quickly use lead soul into dream. It was because the original split soul contained large amounts of memories pertaining to it. There was another reason as well: Sixth Hair. Sixth Hair was a spy placed in Xianxia blessed land by Shadow Sect. Fang Yuan already knew of that. But, after Fang Yuan became Shadow Sect's leader, he could not say for sure if he would obtain Sixth Hair's acknowledgement. Sixth Hair was one of the split souls of Spectral Soul, which had infiltrated into Xianxia blessed land and slowly grew up into a refinement path Gu immortal. He and Fang Yuan had a hostile relation. Now all of a sudden, Fang Yuan had become the leader of Shadow Sect. Although it was Purple Mountain True Monarch's will, would Sixth Hair accept it? Fang Yuan did not have confidence. More importantly, Sixth Hair was not bound by an alliance agreement of Shadow Sect. He could not have that. If he had an information path alliance agreement, it could easily be seen through by Xianxia Land Spirit. His identity would be exposed. After all, no matter which Xianxia Land Spirit it was, they were both refinement path experts. They naturally had all kinds of methods to see the Dao marks in immortal materials. Fang Yuan did not know what Sixth Hair's stance would be, but he understood that if he casually sacrificed Wu Xie and took away his Gu worms, there would be little hope of Sixth Hair acknowledging him. Sixth Hair did not have high value himself, but he was a member of Xianxia sect. If used properly, who was to say that he would not be of help to Fang Yuan in the future to topple the whole of Xianxia sect? Fang Yuan did not want to lose this possibility for the moment. The gains could not match the losses. As such, Fang Yuan chose to let Lady White Rabbit look over Wu Xie, while he entered closed cultivation to resolve the investigative killer move on him. When Purple Mountain True Monarch's immortal Gu ended up in Fang Yuan's hands, they were no longer a comprehensive set. However, these Gu worms could barely form an immortal killer move called Wisdom Balances Calamity, which could dispel the hidden dangers to oneself. Although it was not specially suited to his needs, it was the strongest method Fang Yuan could use currently. Fang Yuan had never used Wisdom Balances Calamity, but fortunately, its structure was simple. It used few immortal Gu and its steps were uncomplicated as well. If it were a complex killer move, Fang Yuan would not have chosen to attempt it so lightly. Red Date Immortal Essence started to be expended as Gu worms activated according to Fang Yuan's thoughts and will. Shortly after, a mysterious light spread out from Fang Yuan's body. Bam! The next moment, the mysterious light suddenly collapsed, producing a muffled sound. Fang Yuan's body slightly shook, two streams of blood flowing down his nose. The activation had failed. However, this situation was within Fang Yuan's expectations. New killer moves needed to be attempted many times before they could be successfully activated. Man as before. Fang Yuan quickly recovered to his prime state and began to try again. Second try, failure. Third try, failure. Fifth try, sixth try, failure. While Fang Yuan was activating the killer move, in southern borders Wu clan, Supreme Elder Wu Fei was facing a small Gu formation. This Gu formation was only the size of a water vat, but it used as many as 1,000 Gu worms. The Gu formation was spread on the ground and was controlled by 3 other Wu clan Gu immortals, who were continuously pouring in their immortal essence. The Gu formation activated, and started revolving quickly like a whirlpool. Ready? Wu Fa asked. The three Wu clan Gu immortals nodded slightly, their attention completely on controlling this immortal Gu formation. Wu Fa slowly spread his hand open, revealing two mortal Gu in it. A life tablet Gu and a soul lantern Gu. He carefully tossed these two Gu worms into the Gu formation. These two mortal Gu were quickly engulfed and disappeared in the whirlpool. The rotation speed of the whirlpool suddenly increased by several times. Sweat covered the foreheads of all three Wu clan Gu immortals, their expressions turned pale and their bodies started trembling. After continuing for a while, two Gu immortals directly collapsed on the ground, unconscious. The only remaining one slowly opened his eyes and gave a location with extreme exhaustion. Wu Fei quickly transmitted this location to Wu Yong. Wu Yihai is likely to have been taken captive by Shadow Sect. Since his life tablet Gu has not shattered, we can use this crucial clue to find Shadow Sect's hideout. Plunder Shadow Earth Trench. Thinking of this, Wu Yong called out to the southern border righteous forces, "I have a clue, follow me." Plunder Shadow Earth Trench. Fang Yuan's expression was unsightly. Wisdom balances calamity actually cannot break the investigative killer move on me. It seems I need to use a stronger method. At this time, He Lu Lan's urgent voice reached Fang Yuan's ears, the situation is not good. Plunder Shadow Earth Trench's Gu formation suddenly broke. It can prevent others' deductions, it seems our location is exposed. I already know. Fang Yuan was not surprised. He was in control of this Gu formation, any problem in the Gu formation would be immediately known by him. Fang Yuan was not panicking at the incoming peril, he had already thought of a way. Everyone, come over. We need to practice the ancient battle formation omnidirectional travel. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible.